Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep today, really deep into the mind of a guy who built something pretty incredible. Tony Hsieh, the founder of Zappos.
Yeah, Zappos, if you don't know, online shoes, but like way more than that, a whole company culture thing.
Right. And we're going right to the source for this one, his book, Delivering Happiness. But not just reading it, we'll bring in some other audio clips to get the full picture.
It's like Tony telling us his story himself, not someone else analyzing it years later,
Yeah.
but his actual thoughts.
Exactly. And that's what makes this deep dive so valuable. It's a time machine, going back to each decision, each win, each, face plant along the way.
And there were some face plants, right. But that's how we learn. You don't get the Zappos story without the worm farm first.
Okay, worm farm, gotta explain that one. 9-year-old Tony decides he's a businessman.
Uh-huh. Entrepreneur in the making. And even then, they see it wasn't just like a few worms in the backyard.
He tried to, scale it up, right? Breed them, sell them, the whole 9 yards. Turns out, worms have limits.
Biology 1, Tony's early year. But it shows that even early on, he was thinking about systems, not just one-off things, which is, key to building anything big.
This wasn't just some kid with a lemonade stand, though. Tony talks about this Asian parent scorecard thing, serious pressure to achieve.
Oh, yeah. Relatable for a lot of people, I'm sure. That pressure to get perfect grades, be the best at everything.
And music lessons. Tony found every hack in the book to minimize that practice time, but not because he was lazy.
No, efficient. He even rigged this system with tape on his violin. Like, okay, gotta hit these spots, good enough.
It's like he was already, even as a kid, looking for the most effective way to get things done, which is honestly a valuable skill.
Totally. And then you have the string of side hustles, lemonade stand, selling Christmas cards door to door, even a newsletter.
All before college, right? Most people are figuring out what classes to take. He's already running mini businesses.
Testing, iterating, figuring out what works. And this is a great story about a $50 button-making kit he orders.
$50. Sounds kind of random.
But it wasn't. See, it validated this business model for him, mail order. He realized he could reach people far beyond his neighborhood.
That's the kind of thinking that separates the entrepreneurs from everyone else. They're always connecting the dots, seeing the bigger picture.
Right. And then college hits. You'd think, okay, now he buckles down, gets serious.
Not exactly. He talks about escaping the regimented life, like his focus shifts from grades to experiences.
Cranks, odd jobs, even theater. On the surface, it looks like goofing off, but maybe it was more than that.
Building skills you don't get in a textbook, right? Creativity, adaptability, how to work a room.
And how to hustle, let's be honest.
Yeah.
He had this story about a Bible class he was taking. Hated the work.
So he created a virtual study group, basically got everyone else to do the heavy lifting for him.
Genius. He even made money off it, selling his compiled notes. Early crowdsourcing right there.
Always thinking outside the box. And even his pizza over burgers decision at the Quincy House Grill, it wasn't just about taste.
He noticed students wanted pizza, even if it meant walking further. Already seeing those customer needs, even in a simple thing like food.
And then there's Alfred, the human trash compactor, later becomes his CFO at Zappos. Not your typical resume.
Shows you Tony wasn't looking for the cookie-cutter, straight-A type. He valued different skills, different perspectives.
Which is honestly a great lesson for anyone building a team. Sometimes the weirdest fits are the best ones.
Totally. So by the time Tony's done with college, he's not just got a degree, he's got this whole arsenal of experiences.
And a different way of seeing the world. He's ready for the next challenge, but that's a story for part 2 of our deep dive. So we left off with Tony, fresh out of college, a head full of ideas, and this, almost aversion to the traditional career path.
Right. And he lands a programming gig at Oracle, which back then, that was like the place to be in tech.
Dream job for a lot of people. But for Tony,
Yeah.
not so much. He calls it soul-crushing, actually.
Yeah, he wasn't feeling it. That spark wasn't there, And I think a lot of people listening have probably felt that at some point, that disconnect between what you're supposed to do and what actually makes you tick.
Totally. So instead of just toughing it out, Tony teams up with his college buddy, Sanjay, and they start their own web design company, Internet Marketing Solutions.
Quitting their stable jobs to do it, too. I mean, talk about leap of faith. But that was Tony, always ready to jump into the unknown.
But even that, their own company, wasn't quite the right fit. Tony admits it wasn't as exciting as he thought it would be.
They learned a big lesson there, though. It wasn't just about being your own boss. It was about being passionate about the work itself. Building websites for other people just didn't light them up the way they'd hoped.
And that's when they stumble onto this new thing, the World Wide Web.
Mm.
The internet, as we know it, was still in its infancy,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Totally different landscape back then.
Mm-hmm.
But they start playing around with this idea, the Internet Link Exchange. Basically, a way for websites to trade banner ads, get more exposure.
And Tony, with his business brain, he sees the potential right away. It wasn't just some techie thing. It was connecting people, building a network.
And they built Link Exchange with this incredible passion, this focus on being responsive, not on like fancy marketing or anything.
It was all about connecting with people, solving a problem for them. And it worked. Link Exchange explodes in popularity, tons of websites signing up.
Classic startup story, right? Find a need, fill it, and people will come running. They were onto something big.
So big that they start getting offers to buy the company. This guy, Lenny, shows up, offers them $1 million, just like that.
$1 million. Back then, that was serious money, life-changing money, especially for a couple of young guys.
But Tony, instead of taking it, he counters with $2 million. Not because he was greedy, but to see how serious Lenny was.
He was testing the waters, figuring out what Link Exchange was truly worth, not just looking for a quick payout.
Always thinking ahead, right. And then Yahoo comes along, offers him $20 million. I mean, come on, at that point, most people would be packing their bags.
Right. But they say no. Tony saw the internet differently than Yahoo did. He thought Link Exchange was just the beginning, a piece of something much bigger.
And that takes guts to walk away from that kind of money when everyone's telling you you're crazy.
It's about believing in your vision, even when it's not the popular opinion. And eventually, Microsoft comes along, offers them a whopping $265 million.
$265 million. Talk about a fairy tale ending. But even then, Tony noticed something.
Yeah, it wasn't all sunshine and roses. He talks about this vest in peace year after the acquisition. He stayed on at Microsoft, mostly to get his full payout, but he wasn't really engaged in the work anymore.
And he saw how money and power changed people, how the big corporate machine could stifle creativity and passion.
It's a lesson that applies to so many areas of life, right? It's not just about the money. It's about staying true to yourself, to what you believe in.
So Tony walks away from Microsoft, leaves millions of dollars on the table. He's not done, though. He starts exploring, trying new things.
He gets into the rave scene, dives into poker, even launches this shoe website, shoesite.com.
Shoes. Seems kind of random after all that high-tech stuff.
But Tony was always observing, looking for patterns. And he noticed something. People were buying shoes online, but the experience was terrible.
And most people would be like, oh, okay, whatever, shoes, who cares? But Tony saw an opportunity, a chance to build something better.
And that's where the Zappos story really begins. But it's not an easy road. There are challenges, setbacks, moments where it all could have fallen apart. So we're talking shoes now, right? From $1 million software deals to selling shoes online. Kind of a head scratcher.
Right. But this is Tony, always thinking differently. Most people saw shoes as like a boring, practical thing.
But he saw an opportunity, a chance to create an amazing experience for something everyone needs.
And remember, this is the dot-com boom. Everyone's throwing money at anything with a dot-com at the end.
But investors weren't exactly lining up to invest in shoes. They didn't see the vision. Even Sequoia Capital, the firm that backed him with Link Exchange, they passed.
That had to sting, right? To have this idea you believe in, and the people who knew your track record, they're like, nah, not interested.
But Tony, he didn't give up. He was convinced he could make it work, even when everyone was doubting him.
And he put his money where his mouth was, literally. Sold off personal assets, convinced early employees to take pay cuts.
It was this whole we're in this together mentality that shared sacrifice builds a strong foundation.
And it wasn't just about selling shoes online. It was about the customer experience, like really going above and beyond.
Tony was obsessed with customer service, empowering employees to make decisions, to really wow people.
Which at the time, that wasn't the norm, right? Most online retailers were all about efficiency to get the package out the door.
But Tony, he understood that happy customers, they come back for more, they tell their friends, it's a long game.
And then things get real, like really real, with the truck crash.
Oh man, that was a nightmare. They just moved their warehouse to Kentucky, faster shipping, everything's going great.
And then, bam, truck carrying their entire inventory crashes. 20% of their stock gone.
Orders are delayed, customers are upset, and they're running out of cash. It could have been the end of Zappos right there.
Most people would have panicked, said, okay, I tried, it didn't work out, but not Tony.
Nope, he doubles down. sells his party loft, the one he loved, at a 40% loss just to keep the company afloat.
It was a huge gamble, could have gone either way. But it showed his belief in Zappos, his willingness to risk it all.
And it paid off eventually. Zappos weathered the storm, became the go-to for online shoes, proved that it could be done right.
And it wasn't just about the money, right? Tony built a company culture that was legendary. People loved working there.
It was about happiness, about treating employees and customers like family, about making work a place you actually enjoyed.
So looking back at Tony's journey, what's the takeaway for our listeners? What can we learn from this guy who went from worm farms to building a billion-dollar company?
I think it's about paying attention, really observing the world around you. Tony saw opportunities where others saw nothing.
Right. And having the guts to act on those observations, even when they seem crazy, even when everyone's telling you you're wrong.
It's about trusting your gut, taking calculated risks, and being willing to pivot when things aren't working out.
And always, always putting people first, both your employees and your customers.
Because in the end, business is about building relationships, about creating value, about leaving the world a little bit better than you found it.
Tony Tsai's story is proof that you can be successful and kind, that you can build a company that makes a difference.
So keep those entrepreneurial spirits burning, keep asking questions, keep experimenting, and never stop believing in the power of your own ideas.
We've only scratched the surface of Tony's story and the Zappos culture. We'll be back with more deep dives exploring the specifics of what made them so successful.
So stay tuned and keep on learning.